I wanted to share with you my thoughts on how to find a green job in Brussels. So we're going to run through this. It was a workshop, but I just want to share the slides with you, and you can do the exercises on your own. There are good questions for reflection. We'll look at what is a green job, why you want one, how that fits in with your sense of meaning and purpose, and also then how to get that job, how to run your campaign, how to apply for the job. And I'll finish with some tips for your application. So my story, I have been around Brussels for 20 years and my career has been about sustainability, also thought leadership and credibility. I started out as a journalist and then I built a sustainability communications business. That's Sustainability Consult. I've also been hosting Green Drinks Brussels for many years. And this work today comes out of my coaching and mentoring practice, where I'm helping people to find their way, find their purpose, and get into a job or a role that really suits them. So just very quickly on my background, I set up Sustainability Consult 12 years ago in 2008. We were 9 people in 2019, and then I scaled it right back to 2 people in 2020 so that I could focus on doing the work that I wanted to do, which includes helping people find their purpose and find their way. We've donated 1% of our sales since 2012, and we've got clients on 14 continents. But my approach to this work, to helping you find your way, comes out of mindfulness, nature connection, and resilience. So what is a green job? What to you is a green job? And it's a reflection that I'll invite you to do. Does it have to be a job that is about environment or about renewable energy? About changing the climate, changing our behavior? You know, just define for yourself what it means to have a green job. And I would suggest that it might actually be a meaningful job that you're looking for. It might not necessarily be an environmental job. And what I'm going to talk about in this video is very much applicable to finding a meaningful job and finding meaning. So once you've had to think about what it means to you to have a green job or a meaningful job, have a reflection and think about why you want one. And I would really pause the video and think about these questions. So just to get clear on your values and your why you do what you do, why you get up in the morning and feel motivated to go to work. And indeed, if you don't feel motivated to go to work, what's not working? So this will help you find your sense of meaning and purpose if you're not yet clear on what that is. So firstly, what matters to you? And who do you want to serve? And what are your gifts? Pause the video, think about these questions. And then you've identified your values. And then is the work that you're doing now in line with those values? Are you living in a way that is true to your values? Because when you're not, it just feels off, and you know it and you can feel it, and there's something that's not quite right about what you're doing and the experience that you're having. So ask yourself, what's not working with the job that you have? Now, if you are looking for a job and you're not currently in a job, you can think about previous jobs that you've had, even temporary jobs, summer jobs, student jobs. But what wasn't right about those? Because by identifying what's not working, it helps us identify what we are looking for. So pause the video and have a go at answering that question. And then lifestyle, you know, your job is only part of it. Your career is part of your lifestyle. And these 3 elements here, they need to be in balance, but balance doesn't mean equal. So the elements that I've identified are, you know, your work-life balance. Well, I actually prefer to talk about a work-life blend, because it's not such an obvious thing to have a real balance in work and life. You know, we are one person. We can't have personal development without professional development without personal development. You know, they go together. And I mean, I've never been able to leave work at the end of the day and not think a single thought about my work, or send an email, or read something that I found interesting. When the work that I'm doing is exciting to me, when I'm passionate about the work that I'm doing, I naturally read books and websites and things around those topics on my spare time, what spare time I have, because I want to learn. And so, you know, work-life balance is not super obvious, but just have a think about how you want your lifestyle to look like. You might want to finish at 5 o'clock and not think about it again until the morning. Now, salary and benefits, how important are those things to you? And with this, I don't want to imply that if you have a green job or an environmental job or a meaningful job, that you're not going to get the salary and benefits, but just think about how important this is to you. And then we've touched on how to identify a sense of meaning and purpose. It's not something that you solve in 2 seconds, but how important is it to you to have a sense of meaning in the work that you're doing, to feel that you're contributing? I'd like to talk about something that has happened to me, that happens to many people who work as activists or in sustainability or trying to change things for the better. And it's when you reach that point that you think, I just don't care anymore. You're feeling hopeless, you're feeling exhausted, burned out, thinking, what's the point anyway? Like, I've done so much in the last 20 years to try to change the environment and try to improve things. And it's worse now than it was when I started. And I mean, I went through that, and that was really challenging. You can feel that it's all doom and gloom anyway, that we're all screwed anyway. So what's the point? And I'm not making a difference. So I might as well just go and buy, a Hummer or whatever. I might as well just go and behave in ways that are not in line with my values, because I don't have this sense of purpose. I don't feel that I'm contributing. So I'm just going to give up. And this is actually really common with activists. So if any of this resonates with you, you're not alone, and there are things that you can do. And I might actually do another video around this, so let me know if it's something that you're interested in. It's called compassion fatigue. And it is when you just reach that point of like, I don't care anymore. I have to say to myself, I can't care anymore. It's more that than I don't care. And this is real. It contributes to burnout, and it can lead to these feelings of existential crisis, of what is the point? What am I doing here? My life is a waste. And then, because we're talking about sustainability and climate change and environmental issues, there is a certain amount of grief and anxiety that comes up. And eco-grief and eco-anxiety, they are very real things. If we work to protect the environment, we're also very aware of what is going wrong around us and how really desperate the situation is. And so to be able to keep ourselves together and ourselves positive and moving forward in that environment is quite challenging. And all of this can lead to a loss of agency, by which I mean a loss of control, or the sense of control over your own life, feeling like you can't contribute, feeling like you can't see the bigger picture. I just wanted to bring that because it is relevant. If you say you want to work in a green job and in a meaningful role, trying to make a difference, you need to be aware that there can be cycles where you reach a point where you actually can't do it anymore, but that there are also ways to get through those. So back to the real topic of finding a green job. Obviously, you have job websites, your Brussels or the regular job websites. You can filter for jobs in environment. Lots of jobs are found through social media. This is my first takeaway. If you don't know this already, I'm sure that you do. But if you don't, there are jobs on LinkedIn, there are jobs on Facebook. Now, specifically to Brussels, there are a couple of Facebook groups where jobs are very often advertised. The first group is called Young Environment Professionals. Yep. And the second one that I run is the Green Drinks Brussels group. Now, whenever I see an interesting position in Brussels or around that's about environment, I share it on the group. So you're very welcome to join the Green Drinks Brussels Facebook group if you're in Brussels. We share lots more, but we also share jobs. And then networking. Every job is not found by seeing an advert on a regular job website and sending an application. I've been hiring people for decades, and if you advertise a job, you get hundreds and hundreds of applications, and they're mostly not relevant. This is actually not the way that most people find jobs, I would say, especially in Brussels. My second takeaway is that you should really do spontaneous applications. I've had sustainability consult for 12 years. And in that time, we never advertised a job. One job was advertised when I was away for a while, but I never advertised a job in 12 years. And I've trained lots of people, I've hired lots of people, I've helped a good number of people get their career in sustainability off the ground, because it's taking that first step that is really challenging. So I really, really recommend that you do spontaneous applications. The way to approach this is to do your research and take your time. You need to see which companies or which organizations are out there that really appeal to you, that really speak to you, where you could really see yourself fitting in. Now, what happens is a lot of the applications I get are very standard, and I'll talk a bit more about really the tailored advice that I give for your application in a moment. But don't just send the same application to everybody. Do your research. Like, we've scaled our team back down to 2 now, but I mean, only last year we were 8, 9 people. You could have gone on the Sustainability Consult website and seen the people, seen the kind of activities we do. You can look on social media still today and see what we get up to. You know, we're big on food, we're big on dogs, we're big on nature, we're big on having lunch together, we love Thai food. You know, you easily get a sense of a company by following them on social media and starting to engage on social media. And if you see something where you think, wow, I really think I could fit in that company feels like a good fit, then there's a good chance that the recruiter, which was me, will also think that you're a good fit. I never really hired for qualifications, for experience, and I know that's a bit unusual. I hired for fit. There were some basic requirements, like excellent written English, because a lot of our work is communications based. So the English has to be a really high level. But when you do your research, you'll understand what the basic requirements are, and you'll get a feel for the culture. And if you feel that you would fit in that culture, reach out to them. Reach out to them and make your case and be persistent. And I want to bring the story of my friend Lucie, who did an internship with Sustainability Consult quite some years ago. We've stayed in touch, we see each other regularly. And she was in France at the time. She was a student and she was looking for an internship. And she sent me a letter, an email with a good cover letter. And in the cover letter, she talked about herself and her values and the lifestyle that she leads. And I thought, she's really a good fit. But she was looking for an internship. And at the time, I didn't have the budget to take on anybody else. We were at our full capacity of staff. And you know, we were fine. We didn't really need anybody else. But when you see the right candidate, well, I have always then tried to create the position. But actually to Lucie at first, I said no. I said, no, I can't take you on as an intern right now. I don't have the budget to take on anybody else. But she persisted. And she said that was okay. She was still a student. She could get some financial support anyway through European programs, and she didn't really need to get paid. She would rather get the experience than get the salary. Well, I've always had a moral aversion to taking unpaid interns, and that's probably quite unusual in Brussels as well, but I don't think it's fair to ask somebody to work for free. So she had to wear me down, and she persisted. And she did it in such a nice way, and she was so charming and nice about it, that in the end I said, okay, I will change my position and I will take you on as an unpaid intern. And she did, and she was great. And when I talked to her about this recently, she said she would have, she preferred to have the experience. Like at that time in her career and her professional development, she's still a student, it was more important to her to get the experience. So that's Lucie's story. And it shows that spontaneous applications do work. Actually, most of the people I've worked with over the years have been hired through spontaneous applications because I don't advertise jobs. And then another story I'd like to bring is Barbara. She's been working with me for 7 years at Sustainability Consult, and she also came in as a paid intern, and she made it all the way up to senior consultant in just a few years. And her tip is to use social media. She got her job at Sustainability Consult, but also a couple of jobs before that through social media. So this is a totally different way of finding a job and applying for a job. These are different channels, and not everybody is there. So If the field of applicants is huge, by taking a different route, you narrow the field. But it's the same advice. Do your research, reach out and persist. Now, specifically, what does that mean on social media? Well, I'll give you the story of Barbara to help to illustrate it. Barbara was on Twitter and she was looking at the kind of firms that she would like to work for. She knew she wanted to work in CSR, sustainability, and she was interested in comms. So she messaged me on Twitter. She had a look at the people that were following her. I guess I was already following her, or she found me on Twitter. And she messaged me and we chatted that way. And then it went to email and it took time. You know, we got to know each other because knowing that someone is a good fit doesn't always happen overnight. You need to take some time. And so I invited her to come to an event that we were organising, a discussion around communications that we used to do at lunchtimes. She came to that and we took our time to get to know each other. And she was persistent and she used her initiative. And that's the thing, like, it is so worth doing spontaneous applications and let social media help you see what's out there. You bypass the official channels and it's just much more human and people get a good sense of who you are. Now, this is going to sound really awful and I'm almost embarrassed to show it, but I do feel that this is one of the takeaways that I need to share with you. I was running a business of 8-9 people. I was constantly traveling. You know, running a small business is actually a challenge. It's a lot. You know, I enjoyed it, I loved it, but I was on the road all the time. And I would receive, and I still receive, many applications to people. They got the message about spontaneous applications, but they would send things that were not targeted. I'm going to go into the specifics in a minute. I know that when you're the one looking for the job and you send loads of applications and you don't get very many replies, even to say, you know, sorry, but we don't have anything for you. I know that's really challenging and it's kind of soul destroying at a certain point. I also just want to invite you to see it from the other side, especially in my case as a small business owner. I was trying to handle the influx of spontaneous applications while at the same time running a business and servicing clients and traveling all around the world to speak at conferences and all this kind of thing. Do not waste my time if you haven't taken the time to do your research, because it's not fair on the other person who is receiving your application. Let me get a little bit more specific on this. It's about tailoring the application. So here are some concrete points. And this is something that these are common mistakes. I get this all the time. And we had on our website some wording about if we don't advertise for jobs. If you think you would fit, send us an email, send us a love note, I think it said. But I would just get so many applications that were not suitable. So here's just 4 things that I think are really helpful in tailoring your application. And the people that were successful in getting through my recruitment process, which was a very unofficial, haphazard process, they had followed these 4 recommendations. So certainly for a firm with a bit of character, this would be advisable. But I think that these are also good recommendations for any application. So firstly, name it. I get so many applications that say, dear sir, dear Mr., or dear sir, madam, dear Mr., Mrs. Again, don't waste my time. If you want the person receiving your email to read it, you need to tailor it. You need to name it. How long does it take to go on my website and see that the founder is a woman and that she has a name? Even if you still send the email to the generic hello email address, you can put the name. In a larger company, you can see who handles recruitment or who specifically is hiring. Putting the name and not just putting dear Mr., especially when it's a woman, is going to make a huge difference. I generally wouldn't continue reading if I saw that. There'd have to be something really special about the email. And if you think it's all about the CV, it's not. It's about the letter. I'm not going to open the CV if there's not something in the letter, which today is the email, that grabs my attention. And especially when we're talking about spontaneous. You can wow the recruiter. You can get them to create a job that they didn't even know they needed. Like, for the right person, you can really do this. But you have to follow some basic rules. So name the email, who you're sending it to. And then we talked about this a bit before in the research aspect, but do your research, make it relevant. What does the company do? What might they be looking for? I would get so many applications because I'm sure there's a list somewhere of Brussels public affairs consultancies, and I'm probably on it. We're not a public affairs consultancy. We never have been a public affairs consultancy. Let me give you the distinction if you're not there yet. Public affairs is government relations, it's lobbying, it's advocacy. Public relations is more about communications and stakeholder and messaging. We're a public relations and communications sustainability consultancy, not a public affairs consultancy. So all the letters that I would get boasting about the applicant's experience in public affairs and saying, I can be really good for you in lobbying and in your public affairs practice, well, that shows me that they haven't understood what the company does. We don't do public affairs, so I'm not impressed by your public affairs, and I'm going to stop reading because you haven't done your research. I train people to deal with the media, and it's a bit like writing a press release. You know, your headline's got to be good. If someone reads a good headline, then they might make it onto the next line. The next line's got to be good. The first paragraph's got to be good, or they're not going to make it further down the press release. They're not going to make it if the quote's not good. You know, and so all of these things, putting in the name, making it relevant, tailoring it, is going to ensure that the recruiter reads more of your email. If they read more of your email, then they might get to open your CV. And I'm sharing this from the point of having been a recruiter, and I think that I can help you if you're looking for a job. I'm not sharing this to make you feel like you're doing something wrong. I want to help. My next one, C, be human. Like, don't be afraid to show that you're a real person. It probably depends a bit on how stuffy the organization is, and you will know that because you've done your research and you see if you're a fit. But even in the most stuffy of organizations, you can show that you're a real person. You have hobbies, you have interests. You might catch my attention with the mention of your interests or a trip that you took, how you live your life, how you are volunteering in the community. Whatever it is that makes you real and interesting. I'm a real person. I try very hard to go around the world as a real person. And so I only want to deal with other real people who aren't afraid to show themselves. They're not afraid to be open, if necessary, vulnerable, because we are all just humans. Like, don't put the recruiter or the CEO on a pedestal. They're just another human being, and maybe you have exactly what they need. So show that you're a real and interesting person. And the final one, keep it real. It all keeps coming back to the research. I don't think I've ever hired anybody that's been to one of the very elitist schools, because that's not who I am. That's not the education process I went through. It's not going to impress me. Obviously on your CV, you're going to say where you went to school, but in your letter, if it's all about, I worked for this politician, you know, I remember getting an application that was all full of, I worked for this Irish politician in Ireland and this Irish, I mean, it's not relevant to me. It's just not relevant in the work that I do. If I was looking for somebody who knew about Irish politicians, it would be great, but I'm not. And so it's not relevant. And I'm not impressed by the name dropping, especially when people are really early on in their career. Just keep it real. Put the details in the CV, but don't obliterate the cover email with lots of name dropping, because you won't get me to the bottom of your email. And here's some real basic things. You need to include your age. Now, as a recruiter, I need to know whether somebody has no experience, 5 years experience, or 20 years experience. You need to include your age or your date of birth, however you want to do it. But as a recruiter, you need to know that. As a recruiter, I want to know where people are based. You know, we get a lot of applications in Brussels from people who are outside Brussels and they want to come to Brussels. That's just something that you need to know. It's not necessarily bad. I've recruited people from lots of different countries to come and work in Brussels. but you need to just give that information, and people don't always. Equally, the availability. People don't always say if they're free. You know, I might have a project, I might have something really, really urgent, and actually if you could start, you know, next Monday, that would be great. Or it might be that you're finishing up some studies, you've still got some internship or something you need to do, and I might be very happy to wait. But if you don't give me that information, it's hard for me to make a judgment call. And then paid internships or not. Now, this is a whole other topic of conversation. Maybe we should do another video on this. But as a general rule, there are a lot of unpaid or very badly paid internships in Brussels. And Washington is the same. And any political capital just exploits people. I don't like it. I don't really agree with it. I have very, very occasionally taken unpaid for specific reasons. But as a general rule, our interns were paid. But again, not very much. The Belgian tax system is horrendous as an employer, and having a paid internship contract is one of the easiest ways for an employer to bring you onto their team. What I think you need to take into account if you're being offered an internship is how likely is it that they would keep you at the end. So because of how the social system is structured here, I would always recruit people onto an intern contract for 6 months. But it was always my intention that if they were good, I would keep them. Certainly in the early days when we were building up the team, later on, we did just have interns that were going around this 6-month rolling door internship. But you need to be honest about that. You know, you need to understand from the recruiter whether this is really just a revolving door, 6 months, I need some, you know, some stuff doing, and then at the end you're out and there's no way, there's no budget. And unfortunately, that's often the case in NGOs, that there's a 6-month internship, but there's no way that they have the budget to hire you at the end. Or in consultancies or other companies, they might well use that as their recruitment process, as I did. So just try to get a sense from the recruiter what's on offer. Now, I mentioned already that we work in communications. If I receive an email or a CV in badly written English, there is absolutely no way that person has a chance of surviving on our team, because our standards are very, very high when it comes to quality of written English. So you need to at least edit and spell check your CV and your letter. If you can't do that yourself, ask a native speaker to do that. You know, it might not be fair that everything is done in English, and having really good English becomes a currency, which means there's a lot of us, you know, who have been raised in English in senior jobs in Brussels. It may not be fair, but it is reality. So you've got to play along with that, get it edited, get it checked, and make sure that everything is consistent and makes sense. And that's not just the words on your CV, but it's also the layout. I see a lot of layout mistakes. For example, when you write the dates, you know, you might say January to June, and you have a little short dash in between, but the next time you write dates, you have a long dash in between the dates. Spaces around the dashes, like that kind of stuff actually matters to me. Maybe in some other firms it doesn't matter, but certainly if you're working in communications, if you're dealing with the media, that kind of thing is important, and it doesn't take much to check it, even if you have to get someone else to check it. And then finally, yeah, your legal status to work in Europe. It's all just information that the recruiter needs, and if you don't have the necessary paperwork to work in Europe, just say that and say what you're looking for. Like, be honest. There's nothing to be gained by hiding behind not giving a full picture. Okay, these are my tips. Now, I would love to stay in touch with you. I think there's a need to do more community events around jobs and finding your way, and specifically Brussels, but also more generally. So you can stay in touch. I'll put some links below the video. That's probably the easiest. But if you do need some personalized support, I'm offering some low-cost sessions for the community to do CV reviewing and to do coaching. And that's coaching around finding your way, finding your purpose, but also very specific, like mentoring on how you find your next job, how you get on the career ladder to a more meaningful career. And as I said, hopefully we'll have some more events coming up in the future. So thanks for watching. Feel free to leave a comment below. If there are questions that you still have that are not answered, I would love to hear them, because that will help me put together videos and events which are helpful to you. You know, these are challenging times at the moment. It's hard enough to find a job that has meaning, that makes you feel like you don't have to leave your true self and your values at the door. It's something I'm very passionate about and I want to help. So please do let me know how you find this and if there's anything else you'd like to have answered. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.